I am like can barely smile. Oh my goodness. First things first, if I look a little swollen, mind your business. I had my wisdom teeth taken out a week ago and I'm still recovering. Okay. Second things second. Is that the saying? I don't know. Ignore my shadow. I'm working with Alaska winters, which means we basically have no daylight. So lighting it is. I prefer natural lighting, but I can't do anything about that at this current point in time. So we have to work with what we got. Okay. Hey guys, it's Tiff and welcome back to my channel. You already know what today's video is, so I do not need to tell you twice. What is up? How are you? I love you, and let's get right on into it. So today we are going to be talking about the 5 books I read in November. I only read 5 books in November, and what am I saying? There is 2 ways I look at that. First, I look at that as, oh my gosh, I read 5 books. That is so many books. I love that for me. That's an amazing amount of books. And then the other part of me is like, oh my God, why did you not read more? There are so many books I want to read and I can't get to them because I'm not reading fast enough. But regardless, even if you read only 1 book this month, that is a huge accomplishment and I am so proud of you. Reading at all is something to be proud of. If you read 1 book, 1 page, whatever, you read something and that is amazing. Anyways, with that being said, we are actually going to get into this video talking about the books I read. So the first book I read in November was The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I actually did read this in a reading vlog. If you haven't seen my reading thrillers for a week video, you should totally go watch it. I have lots of feelings about this book. So first of all, I did really enjoy this book. I flew through it. I read it in 2 days, literally started it one day, read half of it, then read the other half the next day. Absolutely 100% such a bingeable book. It was really, really good. I enjoyed the story and the plot line. It really hooked me from the start and it kept me hooked throughout the entire book, and I thought that the actual story and what was going on was really fun and really interesting. Now, for the thriller aspect of it, I was not surprised by anything in the book, and I was very, very let down, and this is something I express in that reading vlog. Is going into this book, I had heard so many amazing things about this book, and one of the things that I kept hearing from people on Bookstagram, Book Talk, whatever, was saying that the plot twist was crazy, they didn't see it coming, and it was just so good. But reading this book, I didn't really have that plot twist moment. Everything was like, oh yeah, I kind of saw that coming. I was guessing that this was what this actually was. So I couldn't help but wonder once finishing this book is the people who were saying the plot twist in this book was crazy and it was so good, what were they talking about? Because I have literally no idea because I just didn't have that experience reading this book. I wish I did. I love when I'm reading a book, especially a mystery thriller, and I have that moment of like, oh my God, I did not see that coming. This plot twist is crazy. But this book just did not do that for me, but it still was overall a really fun, good book, like I said. So I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5 stars. I can't give it really more than that because again, the plot twist didn't really do it for me, and I feel like the whole point of a mystery thriller is to not see the end coming, and I did. Again, still a good book and I enjoyed it, so that is why it is a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read, wow guys, this is also in a reading vlog, so if you haven't watched my cozy reading vlog and you want to see me literally kicking, squealing to this book, then go watch that, and that is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I had been wanting to read this since the moment I picked it up, and I did not ever find a chance to pick it up, and then I put a poll on my broadcast channel on Instagram asking you guys which book I should read next, and this one won, so I went ahead and started it. I also flew through this book. It was so good. The hype behind this book is so unbelievably warranted. The way some of the things in this book were written, it just really makes you feel, and it's also just beautiful and just very pretty sentences, if you know what I mean. And not only that, but the magical realism aspect that we get in this book of the magical apartment where she's ending up seeing this guy who's 7 years in her past was really cool. I loved that aspect of it because I thought it added so much to the story, just a little bit more depth, just a little bit more oomph to hold on to, and the way that that progressed throughout the book and the way that that unfolded was absolutely spectacular. Oh my God, absolutely spectacular. But the main thing that we need to talk about, okay, is the romance. This is obviously a romance book, and when I tell you Ashley Poston did the romance absolutely spectacular in this book, she did without fail do this love story so good. The banter between the two of them, the tension, the way that the story unfolds because of, I can't can't say that because it'll spoil it. Oh my god, guys, it's so good. When you hear hype about this book, you can be 100% certain that it is very, very warranted. Obviously, it's not going to be for everyone, but this is something I would highly recommend. This is, in fact, a 6-star read for me. This is on the very top of my list of books that I have just absolutely loved to the depths of my core this year. This is probably in my top 5 favorite books of the year, truly. It's just that good. So if you haven't read it, please give it a read because it's genuinely so good. There is water damage on one of the pages from me crying and my tears falling on the page. This book made my heart break, but it put me back together so much better. It's so good. You need to read it, okay? Okay. And the next book I read is October Kiss. Now, this is actually a book that I started in October and then I literally read like 2 chapters, stopped reading it, and then picked it back up towards the middle end of November and ended up finishing it. This is a book that is based on a Hallmark movie, and if you know me, you know I love me a good Hallmark movie. I love Hallmark Christmas movies in particular, but Hallmark movies in general just make me so happy. I am such a hopeless romantic. I love the cheesiness of a romance movie, especially, I know Hallmark movies are so cheesy, they're so predictable. There's nothing special about them, but they do it for me every single time. That is just how I was built. I know they're not for everyone, but they are for me, let me tell you. Please let me know down below if you're the same. But this is based off one of those movies, and going into this, I thought I hadn't seen the movie, and then once I got to a certain point in the book, I was like, oh, I have seen this movie, and I really liked this movie. So it felt like I was just watching the movie in my brain while reading the words. It was really fun. Like, I really enjoyed reading it. It wasn't anything spectacular. It's a short book. It's under 300 pages. And again, it's just based off a Hallmark movie, so it's not like there's too much depth or anything to it, but I loved the story, the plot, and the romance in this book is very sweet. The romance not only between the 2 main characters, Poppy and Ryan, but also the relationship and the love between Poppy and his 2 kids that she is the nanny for. So sweet, and I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars, again, just because there's nothing too crazy about this book. And the next book I actually read on my Kindle also, and that is Obsidian Throne, which is the 4th and final book in the Lachlan Feuds series. I ran through this series so fast. I read the first 3 in October and finished it in November, and I love this series as a whole. Let me just say, as a whole, this is a series that I would highly recommend to everyone, especially if you are someone who is not comfortable with fantasy but you want to get into fantasy. I would highly recommend this series because it is not a fantasy series that's going to be too much fantasy, too crazy, too many words you don't understand that are just coming at you and you're getting confused. It's very easy to understand, but it's so good, and it's also a very heavily fantasy romance. There's a heavy plot of romance throughout this whole series, so that also is great for beginners when it comes to fantasy, in my opinion. Now, talking specifically about Obsidian Throne, the last in the series, I really enjoyed it. I feel like this book was done in a really good way. It kind of wrapped up the series beautifully. There was a lot that happened. There was a lot to unpack, but we had a lot to get done before we completed the series, and I just loved seeing the progression of each of the characters, the progression of the world and the society that they lived in. I will say, I think this last book was maybe my least favorite in the series, maybe my second to least favorite. The second and third books were my favorite in the series, but I still ended up giving this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really loved it, and again, I think it wrapped up the series in a really good way. So for that, 4.5 out of 5 stars. And the last book I read in November is The Holiday Switch by Tiff Marcello. This is a quick, sweet little YA Christmas romance. It's under 300 pages. I really did enjoy this book. I thought the plot line was really fun. The setting for this book was perfect for the Christmassy vibes, the holiday spirit. It really set the scene and the tone for the whole book, and I really liked that. I will say one thing that I didn't maybe love about this book is I felt like it took a really long time for us to get to the romance, so I kind of thought this book was going to be a little more heavily romance, but the first like half of the book felt more about our main character, Leela, than it did feel about the romance. Now, once the romance really started picking up, it was making me feel so giddy and happy. It was really making me feel like I was back in high school, and you know, when you're experiencing like your first kiss or the first time you hold hands with someone and stuff like that. It was really sweet, and I really did love our 2 main characters, Leela and Teddy, and them together was so so cute, but I just wish the romance would have picked up a little sooner in the book. But otherwise, it was really, really fun, and I did really, really enjoy it. I ended up giving this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So with that being said, that is all the books I read in November. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, because we have a lot of fun over here and we want you to join the fun. And like this video if you did like this video. It really helps me out, and I appreciate you guys so, so much. So with that being said, I love you so, so much, and I will see you in the next one. Peace. Jaw's starting to hurt. What is that noise? I had just started reading not too long ago. Like, wait, what? Like, absolutely 100%. Whoa, what? And it was Obsidian. Whoa. Honestly, enjoyed this entire series. So I just said that in this series, and just the progression of the Tiff twins. No. Whoa, that was kind of cringy. I'm so sorry.